Welcome to Transformative Talks and the Sou-Led Entrepreneur Series. In partnership with the Chief Quality of Life and the Promenade Platform, we are geared towards bringing you uplifting stories of Sou-Led entrepreneurs and how their dedication to purpose has fueled their business. The Promenade is a virtual platform to learn and grow with others by accessing wellness, healing, and empowerment communities led by skilled experts. Whether you're a parent, caregiver, holistic practitioner, or Sou-Led entrepreneur, there's a supportive community for you at the Promenade. Hello, and welcome back to Transformative Talks. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm your host, Chelsea Gilbert, and we are doing installment number 2 of the Sou-Led Entrepreneur Series. We have a foundational piece of the Promenade platform here with us. So Lisa Richer plays a huge role in holding together all the different aspects of the platform. And on top of that, she has her own business, Journey to Bloom, where she's the founder, which we'll be talking a little bit about that as well. So, Lisa, thanks for being here. So happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So could you just do a brief little intro of yourself? Tell us a little bit.
Yes. So it's always funny. Like, where do you start? Do you start with who you are, what you do? And I am a big proponent that we talk about like who we are, not what we do. Right. So I'm a connector at the core. And, as we will go into my role with the Promenade, that'll all make a lot of sense. I am a neurodivergent individual, a mom of neurodivergent children, a former neurodivergent elite level athlete. So I am the founder of Journey to Bloom, like you said. So I own my own business there. I'm a neurodiversity consultant and a neurodivergent success partner. So I do often consult, but what I do is work across multiple platforms with helping people bridge the gaps and connect the dots. So because of my eclectic background, whether you're a coach working with someone who is doing all the right things and still feels stuck, a parent trying to bridge the gap with a frustrated child, or an individual in the middle of a massive life transition, I see you. And those are the pieces of my eclectic background that I bring together through my consultancy Journey to Bloom.
I know we've had conversations before about neurodiversity and just kind of noticing patterns, and a lot of small business owners do have neurodivergent tendencies. And it's really interesting to see your role in the Promenade. I can see you pulling those skills that you have in kind of giving people structure and focus points in that and applying it in your role there. So, can you tell me a little bit about your business? When did you start that?
So it originally started in 2018 as Bloom Special Education Advocacy. And then in the middle of COVID, I was already thinking about doing like a expansion. Uh, so I was looking to rebrand. So I rebranded to Journey to Bloom. I rebranded as a neurodiversity consultant. Now, neurodivergent success partner is even more inclusive from all those components, a little bit more streamlined. But it started out of years and years of advocating for my own kids. And I've only known the world of neurodiversity. I've learned later in life since I was born. And then I had 2 children, each neurodivergent, each with different diagnoses. So it was born out of necessity and then has bloomed and evolved through need from others saying, we need you. We want you. We want you to be part of this collaborative process. We want somebody like you to help us guide you. And so one day my husband said, are you ever going to get paid for this? And I finally took the plunge and it started it very slow and steady. I'd say 90% of my clients come from referrals. And so that's how it came to be. And the name is always a fun thing if I can talk about the name for a minute.
Yeah.
My great aunt, her last name was Bloom. And so she and I were always the black sheep of the family, if you will. But we always thought differently, but we always connected. And we always had this kind of sassy side to us, yet also an empathetic, insightful way of understanding what someone was saying before they even said it. Some of my clients like to call it my ability to unpack the unknown unknowns and bring things to life. And so I wanted her, and that's where I initially started as Bloom. And then I brought it into Journey to Bloom because it's a never ending evolution. And so that is at the heart and soul of the business. And then the North Star was my older son who was very difficult for us to figure out how to get him diagnosed. And then my younger one became a more complex circumstances and situations. We're still learning about him at 15. And so my world evolves and my business evolves with it. And I learn every day from my clients. And I love being able to help people in those three different domains bridge those gaps and connect the dots and for others, because whether you're a nonlinear thinker or a linear thinker, I have lived experiences in all of these things. So my lens is neurodiversity, and the avenues upon which I help people are the ones that I had mentioned earlier.
So do you specifically work with individuals or do you work more with like family groups? Do you work with businesses? What does that look like?
That's a great question. All the above. However, I've learned to work smarter than harder. After burnout, I finally gave myself permission to slow down. My ADHD brain, even though it wants to be on all the time, needs as much silence as it needs excitement and chaos. So the core of my business is individuals, because I know that everyone has a unique circumstance. However, we only have so much capacity. And so the reason I said it's an interesting question, because I'm shifting more to the one to many. You know, you and I have talked about this. I love using other people's platforms, other people's podcasts, other people's programs. So like I call it the OPP, right? And I love to use those things because it helps me reach that one to many. But I wasn't doing it for myself. So now, with the help of business strategists, I am doubling down a little bit more on doing more things in groups, whether it's for a group of individuals, a group of family members, a group of business owners, a group of coaches. So I am in the process of taking some of my workshops and webinars that I've done over the years. I've done a lot more than I thought. I just went through them yesterday and I was like, my gosh, I have like 7 of these that I could just push out right now. What am I doing? Right. So I am going to start to actually take action on bringing some of those things to life. There may be some that are done for free. Many of them will be able to be downloadable at some point for a nominal cost. And then I'll be able to do bigger, deeper workshops in cohorts. So that's kind of getting a glimpse into the brainchild. Now that I've said it out loud, now I have to bring it to life because people are going to ask me where it is. So
You're putting it into the universe.
putting it out there, yes. So I do work with people in those 3 ways. But really, when I'm working with parents and educators, it is a lot of that individual, because I'm working with them. I'm evaluating what's happening. I'm helping them connect the dots to outside providers. I'm helping them implement and execute IEP meetings. I just got off of an IEP meeting where we worked with a team and they're talking to me and I'm taking it from this perspective. I've got executive functioning certification, behavioral certification. I have my former SHRM HR certifications, which aren't active, but I've been in the business world. I've been in the coaching world. I've been in the parent space, right? And so I blend those together to help bring people forward. And sometimes that has to happen as an individual. But what I also know is that when you hear others hearing it from you and with you, and that's part of right why I'm invested in the Promenade, more growth happens, faster growth happens. But I also need to hold space for those individuals. The group work right now, the main way that I'm doing group work is I have organizations that ask me to do webinars around understanding neurodiversity, understanding neurotypes, communicating across neurotypes, leading and engaging across neurotypes. And so that's where the majority of any of my webinars and workshops are happening right now. But I do have others that I've done and a new one that's on the horizon.
So how can people access those? Are they through your website? Are they on the Promenade? Are they in both?
Yeah. Right now, they're nowhere. And
Oh
that's part of
no.
the problem. Right. Exactly. So that's part of the problem. That's the putting it out there in the universe. That's me. And I feel that in my heart, like, oh, like, yes, it's about bringing in the finances, but I've never been that person. And everyone people laugh at me. Like even when I was a top salesperson when I was in staffing. And I'll never forget one time my boss came in and goes, "Did you just tell somebody you didn't have a person to staff for them?" I'm like, "I did." She's like, "You are the oddest salesperson I've ever met. You are so honest, yet you're also making all this money." And I'm like, "Well, I can't remember what I tell someone. So if I lie to them, I'm never going to remember that I lied to them because I don't remember when I tell them honesty and I'm a very honest person." And so, yeah, I'm an honest salesperson that made a lot of money, but I prefer to meet people where they are and help them be successful. And then to me, the money comes. right? The only way to get me and to get access to any of my webinars right now is to bring me in to run a session for you and others that want it. So it's a paid engagement. You ask me about it. We talk about it. We talk about what that price point might be. We look at how many people. Is it going to be virtual or in person? And then you hire me to be part of that workshop. That's how it works right now. And you can reach me on my website and other places, but those groupings are not yet accessible. I'm also working on some PDF downloads that people can get just to have little insights of information of how I help people create teams, how there are different ways to look at the same circumstances. And depending on how you respond or react, depends on the outcome, the input, and the output. So all of those things after being in business since 2018 and rebranding almost 6 years ago now, or 6 years ago now, I'm finally bringing some of those things to the masses. And some of those things will be accessible on the Promenade, and other things will be only accessible through my website, and other things only if you hire me.
Gotcha. So, as you were talking about all your different experiences and all the different things that you do, I was thinking that some people might classify neurodiverse individuals as having a little bit of a disadvantage. But I really think when it comes to having your own business, there are certain aspects of it that kind of give you superpowers or the ability to multitask or the ability to hyper focus when you're building and being creative. So I was just curious how your neurodiversity has helped you in creating your business and running your business.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm taking notes because I won't remember, I don't retain. And through my own diagnosis of ADHD, I think this is important to share. I learned that my executive functioning sucks. So the multitasking, it was meant for computers. It was not meant for people. I can't have 16 tabs open and do anything well. I can do it all mediocre, but I can't do anything well. And I'm going to plug for a moment if I can. I have a chapter of a book that was beautifully curated by Jolie DeLuca Collins. Was the brainchild behind it, but I'm one of 23 people, 23 women that were gifted the opportunity to write a chapter. Mine is Unbecoming to Become, Finding Clarity in the Chaos. And the book is called Confident You, The Raw Conversations. Some of these things that you're asking me about really came into full, clear focus as I was writing that chapter. So there are advantages and there are disadvantages of being a neurodivergent individual that runs your own business, just as there are advantages and disadvantages of working in an organization. The way that it helps me now that I know how to leverage it, and that's the big thing here, Chelsea, and that's some of the work I do in helping people, whether it's the parent, the individual, or the organizations. When I understand myself, then I can, with clarity, confidence, and courage, which is my journey map, and the journey map I help people get to so that they can then be supported, empowered, and I can advise them forward until we get to that unknown, able to use it as what some might deem as a superpower. I call it my zone of genius, or own where it's having you be hindered and the struggles and finding that balance between bridging the gaps and connecting the dots, right? If you bring that back together, that's where the magic happens. So for me, how do I do that? Well, with multitasking, I've learned that I don't multitask. I cannot do it. I do not do it well. I honestly don't know anybody that truly does it well. I've learned to say no to the things that don't bring my energy up or keep it stable within the amount of capacity that I have to give to somebody. I know that I have things that I need to get done, and then I have things that I want to get done. But everything is a choice to get there. So having that foundation and stability now helps me figure out which things are allowing me to lean in, take on new projects. So, and then things that I need to say no to, or not now, not yet, not ever. And so, right, like I think about Journey to Bloom is my foundational business. That is my business. Like you said, I'm a solopreneur, but I also have learned when it's time to invest and lean into others help me with a piece of it. And so now I do have someone that helps make sure my website doesn't go down after it went down 6 times in 4 months. So I brought someone in to monitor my site and to help me from time to time with updating things because I've learned that the technology pieces make me freeze. And so when I freeze, I can't get anything done. Right. And so what's the point of doing anything at all if you can't get anything done? So it's not good for me. It's not good for my clients. It's not good for the audience and the people that may come to me. Same thing with when I rebranded for my website. I had someone do my logo, which is a heart infinity now. It's a never ending journey to bloom, and it's all heart led and it's all heart centered. And so people might not have noted that about my site, but I hired someone to do that. And then when it comes to my business strategy, I've had people ask me to be a business coach for years and years. I finally said yes to someone. And the person I said yes to is the person who curated that book I just mentioned. And the reason I did that is she gets me at every level. And she met me where I am and said, here's an opportunity. I wasn't being sold. I was being connected with. And so for me, having a neurodivergent brain and working with neurodivergent individuals, whether you're neurotypical or you're neurodiverse, it allows me to pull from all these different avenues and different experiences and bring it together. But because I've had all these experiences, and unfortunately, but fortunately, I went into burnout. In the book chapter, I say that it was the absolute worst thing, but really it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it allowed me to trust me and be able to then know what I can do, what I should do, what I want to do. And when even it makes somebody else uncomfortable, when I need to share my voice. And I didn't have that ability in corporate. People would tell me I was too emotional, I was too this, I was too that. Now I might make people uncomfortable and it might feel a little bad that I do it, but I know I'm doing it because I have a valid reason and I'm saying it in a way that is driving change, not driving combativeness.
And that's really important, not just for neurodivergent individuals. That's basically valuing yourself and knowing yourself and learning yourself, however your brain may work. So I love that you brought that aspect of it into your explanation of you basically just learned yourself and learned how you do things best and things that you need help with and what things drain you. And I think a lot of people, when they watch this, if they are neurodiverse, are going to relate to that in a really deep way. And I think it's always good to talk about success stories when you're talking about things that might seem like a hindrance or seem like an obstacle, but there's ways to get over them and there's ways to be successful in your own way. And I love that you shared that so eloquently, all the different steps and all the different ways that you were able to do that for yourself.
Thank you. Let me share one thing for the audience about neurodiversity. So we are all neurodiverse. Neurodiversity is an umbrella. And so there's neurotypicals and then there's neurodivergent. We're all neurodiverse. A neurodiverse is an individual, um, neurodivergent, a neurodiverse group of people. And so when you think about neurotypical, what is deemed typical by society? And, it's really interesting. If parents are listening to this, I did a session on understanding neurotypes, and I had a group of corporate individuals, and many of them are parents. And they were like, well, then you're talking about children. Children are all, neurodivergent. And I was like, well, children do think differently in part because society has not yet taught them to think otherwise. And so when we, as you were saying, I wrote this down, valuing yourself and understanding how your brain works, like that's literally what I've done. And because when you do that, it doesn't matter what any other individual thinks of how you think. If you're able to articulate it in a clear, concise manner, it won't come across combative. And for me, in many years in the business world, and this is where I feel like when I tap into talking with business leaders and executives, if you're coming across and someone's saying it's combative or you're too passionate or you're too this, and you're reacting to it, and that reaction is becoming that like over emotion. And I hate to say it, but a lot of times it was, because I was a female and it was like, oh, well, you're too this, too that. But then the male leader would say the exact same thing. And I'm like, with a more of an attitude. And it was great. And so the more that we as individuals, whether you are a he, him, they, them, she, her, doesn't matter, the more you're comfortable with who you are, the more you can change it. And just you can hear, like, I still get triggered talking about that. My tone just changed. So when I let go of the anxiety, because I started to value myself and how my brain works and know that my knowledge is important and how I say what I say gets someone to act or react. And then I let my body decide if they're getting triggered because it's an internal thing with them or if it's me that needs to re explain it. And I let them sit in that silence. It's uncomfortable, but I got to put the moose on the table. I can't just talk about the elephant in the room. You can name it and you can tame it, but if you don't have that discussion about it, it comes back up over and over again. And so that's the other caveat for me is I uncover those unknown unknowns in the boardroom, in the classroom, in the arena, in the home, and I help people take it from just the one thing through working it through to a better solution.
That is fantastic. I love that. So, for those of you who have not watched the first of this series yet, we talked to Terry Kukovich, who is the founder of the Promenade. And she's a clinical psychologist. She works with neurodiverse people. And I was curious because I don't think I've ever heard the story of exactly how you and Terry met, but I'm assuming it was in that arena.
Mm. Terry is in Indiana. I am in Maryland. The person who I hired to do my branding, and she actually has a couple books out, one of them being Owner Lane, Michelle, she and I had met through a Women Empowering Women online that was run by a different person during COVID. Eventually, Michelle and I connected. She had a neurodivergent child who the advocate actually never showed up at a meeting. And she was like, I wish I had had someone like you. And she got me and she knew who I was. She met me when I was in the midst of burnout. And I knew that she had brand authority and she was just really great at what she did. And she brought a very personal element. So I hired her to redo my website for all the copy, all the content, to take everything I had and make it make sense. So through the process, she said to me, one of the things I'm going to give back to you is anytime I find someone that is talking about anything in this space that you live in and the varying ways that your brain works and the different environments upon which you've worked in, I'm going to refer you. And that's how Terry and I met. So she had sent me, Michelle, a direct message, something that Terry had posted, and she barely posts on LinkedIn at that point. And so it was very interesting. But Michelle caught it, connected me with Terry. Terry and I talked, and I'll never forget the first conversation. I was sitting in my family room, and she was talking to me about this vision. She was just getting ready to interview for a new job, and she was driving somewhere. And we started having this discussion about her vision. And I had already been well into my journey to bloom. I had owned a couple other businesses, but they were more because I was consulting for companies and I didn't want to go work with them. And so I opened them up to be able to have me be a consultant and different things like recruiting and data management and HR leadership and like all different types of things from my very eclectic background. So I was kind of bringing those things in. But this was actually Journey to Bloom is my true full, like my passion, my purpose business. So I was talking to her about where I had been in my business and where she had been. And initially it was, do you want to just kind of be thought partners and bounce ideas off each other? Because we are in different phases and I think we can learn something from one another. Well, it evolved into 3.5 years later, maybe almost 4 years now. We're here where we are and have brought her vision in some ways full circle. We've gone back and forth about a lot of things. And in some of these things have come right back to where we were on day one, but we needed to go through all that messy middle to get to this clarity point. But now we've successfully launched the platform and have members in it. And I can't wait to see like where it goes. I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you and answer any other questions you have about that evolution and just the fact that you're playing a role in this now with us.
Yeah, and I'm really excited too. And I think it's interesting how when you guys talk about like kind of everybody coming in that is kind of giving like a foundational piece or putting energy into it to kind of continue the growth, like we've all kind of met in these really strange, like divine timing sort of ways. And we all have a lot of similarities as well. It's really interesting to kind of step back and look at that. So in the past 3.5, 4 years that you've been putting your energy into this, what has been the biggest growth or the biggest change that you've seen? I know you said recently s- the platform's been made live and there's members now, but in terms of like what it took to get there, what was kind of some of the bigger things that come to mind?
There's a lot.
A lot of things.
There are, but there's some things that were personal and some things that have been just very direct to the promenade. But you were saying we all come into these at different at different times for different reasons. And some of the biggest growth has been within myself, honestly. And then I'll talk about the growth within the promenade, but being able to stand strong and share feedback with Terry on things that are evolving or when other advisors and people have come and gone throughout the time and where we shifted gears and then really came right back to, like I said, like the very beginnings of what was her true vision. So there's been so much growth and evolution. If I even just think about Terry and my relationship, there's been so much growth and evolution in terms of our partnership in all of this. We joke sometimes that I'm her right and left arm. She's the visionary of all of this, and she's all about the numbers. I'm all about the integration and collaboration. I love the messy middle, hence the title that I have. But really, it's about integrating and collaborating across the leadership and within the platform, right? If you will, just that's kind of the things I do. And so, but helping one another, her and I, just evolve and step into the best versions of ourselves and recognizing where each of our strengths are and where we can truly lean in and support one another. And then thinking about who has stuck with this whole time. So myself and Terry, obviously, it's her vision. Cynthia and Amanda have been in this from the beginning. Christina, she's been in it a little bit from the sidelines for a lot of it, but always like had a foot in it. And then others that have been kind of in it, watching it from the side, stepped away. Some that really just didn't see the vision the way that we wanted it and flipped it on its head, and then we've had to flip it back. And then we kind of now have it on its side. So we've talked about like, how do we bring people in? Does it make more sense to talk with people first that are the contributors, or does it make more sense to bring members in? But if we bring members in without having those contributors, then what are the members getting? And so all those iterations of kind of that who's on first, what's on second, the evolution of myself, Terry, Amanda, and Cynthia of different roles that we've played and different ways of figuring out what works for us and what doesn't. One thing that we all have in common is each one of us also is a solopreneur. We all run our own businesses. And yet we found a common ground in the uniqueness and the expertise that we each bring to this phenomenal ecosystem that we call the Promenade. And so lots of blood, sweat, and tears, honestly, in the evolution. But the biggest growth that I believe that we have come to realize is trusting our intuition, learning how to use our voices. And I think that goes for all of us, every one of us that are in the leadership team, and sharing with one another without regret and without anxiety, because we all come to it with the right intention. And by doing that, and each of us getting to that place, we now get to lean into the promenade as we welcome paying members into it, both from a contributor standpoint and from a general member standpoint, and share in that evolution and help guide each of them to becoming the best version of themselves in ways that they don't even know yet that they need.
I really think it's amazing how you guys have poured into this for such a decent, not long period of time, but it's a good chunk of time that you guys have put energy into this. And I think for a lot of people trying to, speaking like, I guess, as if you're like looking at it from a visionary standpoint, it's like it's usually a big idea. It's a very profound idea. It's something that's going to change people's lives. And there is that aspect of like there's a lot of time and energy that goes into that. People don't just all of a sudden decide one day, oh, I want to start a totally different social media platform, or oh, I want to start a totally new type of networking group, and it just like magically within months it happens. Like there's a lot of components to it, and I love that you guys have all been so dedicated to what you're creating. And I really feel like, as you were kind of describing just the environment and the energy in the space with everybody, I'm like, oh, well, this is why I'm here. This makes sense why I'm here because I've had my own journey too of I have my own business and I'm learning to find my voice and lean into my talents and not shrink myself in terms of what I can offer people and what I can offer people on a broader scope. So it makes sense so much when you described it like that. It's like of course we're all connected at this point in time.
And you, Chelsea, honestly, you were a missing piece of the puzzle. And so coming into this makes me emotional, honestly, because we were all diving into so many different avenues. And we've had people that were like, I want to do this, I want to be part of this, but never really dove in fully. And when you leaned in to becoming part of the team, you did take ownership and you did dive into it. And it actually opened up capacity for each of us to stick within more of our zones of genius rather than having to dabble in that crossover. We talked about it this morning, right? That there's always going to be crossover in the different roles that we play, but the roles that we play also have ownership and pride in the things
Mhm.
that we are really good at and that we want to help others take notice of, whether it's bringing somebody in, whether it's embracing the platform and really getting the most out of it, whether it's keeping people retained, keeping people appreciative, helping them get onboarded, right? So we have all of our areas, but like you said, the environment and the energy of the promenade, the people we're bringing in are people like us. We have businesses where we can bring our business side, but then we can also leverage those contributors, the business owners, in what we need from our personal side. That's where that interconnectedness of bridging the gaps and connecting the dots from my Journey to Bloom business really connects to achieve quality of life, connects to the promenade by achieve quality of life, and how I have capacity. And I wore my necklace today on purpose to inspire resilience in others, not just through Journey to Bloom, but I see the promenade and the ecosystem in each of us and our roles here as a great extension. While it's a standalone business and Terry is the founder, what I do threads through it completely. And so I allowed myself to give myself the space and capacity because when you think about it earlier on, when you asked me where can you find some of the things that I'm working on, some of that will overlap into the promenade. Some of it will stay on my website, but it is all interconnected.
That's awesome. I'm so appreciative and grateful that I just met you group and that I'm able to contribute in a way that feels purposeful. So, as you were talking about that too, you said you were getting emotional. I've been getting emotional on and off as you were talking about stuff too. All that being said, talking about like where the promenade is now. So, where do you project or envision this? You can talk about just personally, or you can talk about like as a whole, like with Terry and the whole group, like within the next, couple of years. Like, how do you see this growing, expanding, and impacting the lives of people?
Gosh, okay. How do I see it growing and expanding? I see it growing and expanding with in-person events. So I know going to tease out here the exchange if Terry's ready for us to talk about that. But right now the in-person events are more where you guys live because that's where they're happening. But expansion with the in-person events, driving people into the platform members, whether you're a contributor or a general member, driving the need for more in-person so that crossover there. And as an overarching, I see us being the platform for integrated health, wellness, empowerment, and soul-led entrepreneurs. Because that interconnectedness of the members and the soul-led entrepreneurs and all those things that happen in between, I see us as that go-to ecosystem. I see us as being trailblazers in an interconnected world that has been very disconnected, but is screaming to have a connection funnel back and forth and us being a conduit to both sides. That's what I see for us.
When you mention connection, it's one of those things where the world is connected. I suppose we have the internet, we have the ability to connect, but how much intentionality and how much authenticity is in it? And that's definitely what I see this platform bringing as well. And I see the potential. I feel the potential intuitively. I feel where this can go, and that's one of the reasons as well why I'm all in to helping do what I can to facilitate and grow with you guys.
If you think about the role that I play as the integrative collaboration officer or the integrative collaboration leader, it really is, I love the middle. And so for me, it's all about integrating all of these things that we've talked about and collaborating on them. And you can't do that unless you're bridging the gaps and connecting the dots, right? So it goes back to that every time. And I am that conduit back and forth between all parts of who we are as a business. We were joking the other day that Terry's like, well, you don't own any of these things on like our master project plan. Well, I found some things to own because there are things that without clarity, and you brought some of these to our attention, right? Without clarity, we can't integrate, connect, and collaborate on those things. And so I have to bring some clarity to some of the terminology and some of those other things. I may not own it, but I thread through all of these pieces of it. And that's where I thrive, is in that middle. Um, and the things that each of you are doing within our leadership, but then the thing that each of the members, whether you're a whether you're a contributor member or you're a member coming in seeking the services, supports, and resources, I'm going to learn from each and every one of you as well. And one of our goals is to always have an environment and have the energy of the promenade being purposeful. So if we are not taking what we're learning to help inform others, to help them grow themselves, their business, their health, their wealth, their happiness, the implementation of things, that is part of what this ecosystem is all about, is connecting all those parts and our 6 pillars, and I'm not going to get into here, and helping others truly achieve quality of life.
I love how you wrap that all back around to the
Thanks.
achieved quality of life. Yeah, because the achieved quality of life, again, if you watch the first installment of this series, Terry talks about how achieved quality of life is the umbrella business under which the Promenade platform sits. So this conversation has been so insightful, and I think that a lot of people are going to get a lot out of it. And so I was curious too about how people can contact you if they would either want to connect with you for your services or want to talk to you about the promenade.
Very good. So if you're talking about the promenade, LinkedIn, Facebook, through the info at Achieve Quality of Life, that'll come over to us as well. My LinkedIn and my Facebook are Lisa Lazar Richer, I think, on both. My Insta is at Journey, the number 2 Bloom. For general information about my services and to get to know me more, my website is, wait for it, journey, the number 2 bloom.com. So very easy. And my email address is lisa at journey, the number 2 bloom.com. So pretty easy to remember ways to get to me. And any and all questions are good ones. I always say the only questions that aren't good are the ones you don't ask. So please feel free to ask away. This has been such a fun conversation, Chelsea, and I'm just so excited to have you also be part of all of this, and can't wait to see what these conversations lead to for others to come in and experience all the goodness of the promenade and the ecosystem that we are building.
And I'm excited to see where this all goes as well. So all her information is going to be linked down in the description below the show. So easy access to click and contact her. And definitely make sure you tune in for the next Transformative Talks. Thanks for tuning in to the Sou-Led Entrepreneur Series. Make sure to follow Transformative Talks on all our social platforms so you never miss an episode. Our affiliate links to Achieve Quality of Life and the Promenade Platform are in the description below. If you're looking for wellness, healing, and empowerment solutions, join the Promenade as a guest to get started. For Sou-Led entrepreneurs, you can book a discovery call to learn more.